Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro, friends. On today's episode of the Daily Coffee Pro, let me start that again. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro, friends. As you can see, this really is live. We do this live on our YouTube channel every day. Welcome to today's episode. Today is episode 5 in a 5-part series on your coffee brand. And today we're going to be looking at all the delicious things that we talked about, sales and concept and brand and all that kind of stuff. We're going to marry it together and see how it flows so that you get the outcome that you're looking for, which is a really great business that's fueled by increased revenue. Before we get started today, I'm not going to say anything about a sponsor. What I do want to mention is that if you are a business owner, I want you to know that I see you and I see how hard it is to do what you do. I want you to see that I hear and see and I feel exactly how isolating what we do is, and that you are not alone. And I was reminded of how I am not alone today in a conversation that I had with the owner of the company of the t-shirt that I'm wearing today. I just want to show it to you. The golden standard, this t-shirt says. This is the t-shirt of a company called Costa Oro. And the CEO of that company is Ariana Hartstrom. And she was on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. And I have the great and humbled pleasure of calling that woman my friend, because today I was feeling incredibly frustrated about a few things and had a meeting scheduled with her, and it was just so wonderful to know that I'm not the only person. And I mean, intellectually I know this. I talk about it a lot on this podcast, but sometimes you need to be reminded that you are not alone, and the isolation that comes with running your own business can be extreme at times. And so I'm going to give a shout out to my friend Ariana Hartstrom. Our industry is better because of this woman. Our industry is better because of intentional leaders like her. And if you ever come across this woman, give her a hug. And if you can do business with this woman's business, do it. I'm going to include a link down below. And why it's important to mention that in this episode of the Daily Coffee Pro is because sometimes we don't know what it is that we're not doing right so that things can flow. And I want you to know that a lot of the time it's got nothing to do with you. And Ariana reminded me of that today. She reminded me that sometimes as a business owner, the better you get at doing this, the bigger the distance is between what you can do and what you can expect of the people around you. And they were really wise words that I needed to hear today and prepared me perfectly for this episode of the podcast. Because we look at things like branding and we look at things like our sales strategy and our concept and the cultures that we build. And we think we're doing everything right. And they don't land. For some weird, strange reason, things are just still really hard. And sometimes there's just no way to fix that other than to weather the storm. But there definitely is a way to prepare yourself for those storms. And one of these ways is this formula of stuff that we were talking about today. Because external factors can really weigh on on you. And I'll give you an example. So if you have your sales strategy and you have your brand sorted and you have your concept clear and a recession hits, that's outside of your control. That's not something that you did. That's not something that you could control. That's not something that you could do anything about. But you're still working a formula. You're still working a formula of trying to get all of this happening. Now, in those extreme circumstances, if you understand the way that the formula is, that is this one that we're talking about today, where branding plus marketing plus a well thought out sales strategy equals more revenue. If you have that formula and you have started working in times of prosperity and you've started building it from there, well then in the times where you feel all the external pressures, it's about tweaking the formula so that you can find either a way to adapt to what's going on or find a way to survive what's going on. Some people look at tragedies and they find a way to profit from them. You do you, boo. Like if you can live with yourself doing that, I'm not going to judge you. Other people look at those situations and try to figure out a way to just survive through them without profiteering off other people's misery. And if you can survive the external things that happen, this current coronavirus situation is a perfect example of that kind of thing. So knowing this idea of what your concept is and how that evolves into your branding, which is the expression of that concept, and using that to come up with an effective marketing strategy so that you can find your people and you can tell them about your product. Then when you've got their attention, your job is to make them an offer they simply can't refuse, which is your sales strategy. Once you've put that sales strategy in front of them, not once, not twice, but as many times as you can without being annoying and turning them to have a distaste for being over-marketed to, then what you'll start to see eventually is that you do increase your revenue. But you cannot expect to have increased revenue if you're not working that formula. So if you, for example, are saying, well, I tried to get my product out there, but it just hasn't worked. People don't want it. All right, tell me what you've done. Tell me how you've marketed to people other than, well, so let me put it this way. Who have you marketed to? Are you sure that they are the people that should buy your product? Are you aligned? And if you're not aligned, either change the people you're marketing to or change the product to be something that the people you're marketing to want. Is the branding matching those people and the language that they want to hear? This podcast is a really great example of that. There is a sector of the coffee industry that absolutely refuses to consider this podcast of any value because I say the word fuck and I say the word shit and I talk about the uncomfortable things. And I don't know how to make it clearer to people that this, if that offends you, this is not a podcast for you. This is a podcast for people who have as a core value authenticity, or are at least aspiring to that. They see a value in it. I'm not going to change who I am. I refuse to change who I am in the way that I speak to make people show up for this brand. I work very hard at doing research and at engaging topics in my investigations and in my learning to keep this podcast interesting and to keep this podcast hopefully feeding your growth. And the day that this stops being meaningful for people is the day I stop doing it. There are other things that I could be doing. And that's my audience. That's the product. The product is, I'm going to real talk the shit out of this because I genuinely want you to not just hear the good stuff. I want you to be prepared for the challenges. There are plenty of other people out there that will give you dessert for dinner. I want to give you nutrition as well as dinner. Sorry, as well as dessert. But you can have dessert after dinner. But I want you to feel that you've been fed with stuff that's going to maintain you long term. You'll hear something in one podcast and then down the track, you'll be like, that's that thing that Lee warned me about. I knew this was coming. And that's not comfortable for everybody, but I know who my audience is and I know who my audience isn't. So that if somebody says to me, I really want to come on your podcast, but you can't say the word fuck, well, I'm prepared for that because I know what my brand is. I know the language that my brand communicates in, and I know what our strategy is. I know what our marketing strategy is. We real talk. Do we have to do better? Hell yes. We have to do better at getting this podcast out to more people. But that's also a thing that comes with time. It comes with trying. It comes with establishing a history of what your product is. It comes with proving your staying power. That's not just for this podcast. It's for Elixir. It's for your roasting brand. It's for everything. Every product that's out there. And having that staying power is really fucking hard. I have this saying, and it's not my saying. I've heard it many times. And we've all got a version of it. And being in the music industry really taught me about this. Everybody wants to be a rock star, but nobody wants to do the work to get there. And even those who think that they want to do the work to get there, the moment they actually see how much work is required to get there, they peace out very quickly. Now, this is not just applicable for rock stars. This is applicable for business as well. So many people, I won't say everyone, but so many people will say to you, I want to be my own boss one day. Or they'll say, fuck this shit, I don't want to work for somebody else. I'm going to be my own boss now. And they go and try and do that, and then they realize, why didn't anybody tell me it was this hard? It is. It really, really is. And so if you have had the courage to take on board this extremely challenging challenge, I salute you. You're my people. You're my people. If you are trying to figure this out, you are not giving up on yourself, and you are looking the gaps of what you need to learn right in the face and saying, you know what? I just am not good at marketing. I am not good at sales. I am not good at this. I'm not good at that. And I don't know how to get help. I don't know how to fix it. Well, you're starting to by admitting that. And today, I want you to know that I see you. And I, as I said, I salute you. And I hope that you have people in your life like I have people like Ariana in mine. On that note, I hope you found this series helpful. If you have any further questions about your coffee brand, hit us up at mapitforward.org. You can hit the button Ask the Daily Coffee Pro. We have something very exciting coming up the week after next with regards to the Daily Coffee Pro that we've never ever done before, and I cannot tell you how excited I am, and I cannot wait. But until then, I will see you again for the next series. And until then, peace, love, and peanut butter, friends. Have an amazing rest of your day.